Hi everyone, welcome to Life is Fun. My name is Danica Adams. Today we have a special, awesome guest. Am I saying your name right?
Wagner? That would be the German way to say it.
German way to say it?
Yeah.
So do I say Wagner?
Wagner's fine.
Okay.
Sure.
So we'll call him Robert Wagner. Because that way I don't actually have to keep a German accent. I am part German though, trivia. You are a producer, correct?
Yeah.
So, because otherwise I got the wrong guy. Can you tell me about this latest production you've been working on called Bragg N East? There's been a lot of stuff going on about it. What is the opportunity that you see in this film?
My ultimate goal, when I first became a cop and I was put in this area, Bragg Street, I had a captain come to me once and he says, I want you to look at your neighborhood a little different. He said, if police did not exist, you'd have good areas and you'd have bad areas. Police is a tool that can be utilized to help an area, but it's not the answer. Why does this area breed a negative response versus other areas breed positive spots? What is different? And so I started to look at the neighborhood in a different aspect. Instead of thinking, okay, you know, cop mindset, you know, arrest, who's breaking the law, let's just take them to jail, take them to jail, take them to jail. And it's the same person over and over again, you take them to jail. It's, you know, you end up saying, man, this is really not effective, but hey, it's all I know how to do, let's take them to jail. I started to reach out in a different manner, more community. Started to get to know the people, got to know the residents, got to know the guys that were on the streets, got to hear their stories, and started asking them, what do you need? What does this community need for change? You know, I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And I've always had the love for film. Yeah. I did film work before I became a cop, and I called it my buddies. I was like, hey, you know, let's do this film, and it's all inspired by true events about something happened in my life, which was a big changing turning point in my life. And it's also will mirror some of the lives of some of the individuals that I've been able to affect them. We came up with this idea that what we would do is we would turn not just a movie for a movie, but a movie as a ministry. We partner with the community, we partner with those that live in the neighborhood, have them come and work on the movie set. Having a movie that's to be shot in the neighborhood is something they can be proud of. It's some hands-on excitement that draws people in. We had 125 release forms on set for people to sign to get involved. The third day out there, we had to go print more. That many people just coming out, hey, I want to get involved.
So Bragg N East, which is the name of two streets, correct? Bragg and East, is more or less based off of some very real events for you?
The main story, which talks about, is really my life. Daquan, who's the character from the streets in the film, he is a compiled character of all the people that I've dealt with. I joined the police department because I want to help people. You know, I've always had that heart. I was a music minister at church. My dad was a preacher. We did barb industries. I became a cop because, hey, I was like, man, it's a good way to get people at their lowest and really be able to help them. I was great at being a cop. I had the most arrests, drug charges, the most gun seized. I got all the chief citations. But after a few years, I noticed that I would be arresting some people, and the same people I would arrest would be on the streets doing the exact same thing before I was done with my paperwork. Am I really helping anyone? And I'm finding that they're beginning to hate us. Their spouses, their cousins, their brothers, their uncles, their children are hating us. I'm having to take dads away from crying kids. Dad is telling them that we're no good and this and that. And you know, I'm starting to see this huge cycle. Do people need to be arrested? Yes, but there's something missing here. There was a relationship that was missing, and that relationship was between me or the police and the neighborhood. But I was getting hardened as a cop. I was like, you know what? This is all I know how to do. Let's go to jail. Let's go to jail. Yeah. I'll find a reason to take you to jail. You know, like you're impeding the flow of traffic or you're trespassing. I'm gonna jump out on you, search you. You know. But after a while, in my heart, I was sitting there saying, this is not the reason I became a cop. Around the same time, my personal life was getting rough. My daughter was getting sick. She was having fevers up to 106. This was on her second birthday when she turned 2 years old, and then they sent us over to Chapel Hill Hospital, and they were telling us that she could have leukemia, and we were talking about doing bone marrow testing. Meanwhile, I'm sleeping in the hospital and trying to work the streets at the same time.
Yeah.
Just very little to no sleep. I'm frustrated, and then at work, I get a call for a code blue. I roll up on scene, I knock on the door opens up, and a lady takes her 6-week-old child and places it in my arms and says, "Save my baby's life."
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so as I was holding this dying child in my arms, the first thing that came to my mind was my daughter that was in the hospital.
Mm.
And I did everything I possibly could to try to save this baby's life until EMS got there and they took over, and the baby ended up dying. After that, as a cop, we have to suppress our emotions because we can't allow our emotions to dictate our job and what we do.
That's true.
So I had to go to the neighbor and start to investigate, how the baby ended up in the situation. And the neighbor was just hardened. Yeah, I don't care, I'm just tired. They had to come over here and ask for my phone. I'm tired of them asking me this and that. Like, their child was dying. And so I drove down to a place called Saints in Bloodworth. And I sat there and I just prayed to God. I'm like, "God, I don't know if this is for me. I don't feel like I'm helping anyone, and everyone I deal with hates me." And I remember him telling me, "How can you expect them to give something they may have never received?" And that's unconditional love. When my daughter got better, she ended up having an abscess, a bacterial abscess behind her heart that was causing the fevers. But from that day forward, I started to try to view the neighborhood in a different manner. Instead of us versus them, how can we create a partnership so that the change is mutual? I built these relationships with people in the neighborhood, and that's where I really started to learn who they were and why they ended up in the situation here. Why does someone grow up and become a drug dealer? I've learned so many stories, and not every story is the exact same, but there are a lot of same factors.
Yeah.
No role models, no opportunities, get caught up in the wrong thing at a young age and feel like they have no way of getting out.
And of course they're brought up to hate the police, so hating the stuff that might be able to help or something.
Exactly. And so...
Right, Cholo?
And so that's when we adapted a story which originally didn't even talk about my story at all. Well, people got into it, we hired a writer, a couple other people looked over it, and they all said, "Well, you really got to tell your story because, in this movie, in Bragg N East, because a lot of people will be able to relate to that."
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of the comments. You've got these good words about you saying how you always get things done. I mean, you know me, I'm LIF, life is fun. One of my goals is to inspire people to live and to follow their dreams and to enjoy life. A lot of times life just tells you it's too hard and there's no point. So I really like people who have the drive to be like, "Look, this is my passion and I'm going to go for it, and there's nothing that's going to be in my way because my God's going to pave my way." I mean, I'm a big time Christian as well, so all y'all know that. I love that you put your faith and your passion and your dreams in this one film, and you're making it work.
I mean, this is the beginning, because this is the short film version of the feature. We'll use this to really try to draw more attention, to try to get the full budget so we can really focus on our ministry. But I'll tell you, the one thing I learned over this is, even if you're up against the Red Sea and you got Pharaoh at your back, God always has a way out, and you just got to look up. Moses could have thrown his staff down and said, "Oh well, throw my hands up, okay, I'm done." His faith in God at that moment, when it felt like he had nowhere else he could go, because the horses and everyone, chariots and everything else could outrun him. But it wasn't then until God parted the seas and allowed them to walk through. And God always seems to want to work at the last minute to us, because, but to be honest with you, God's timing is always the right timing. It's always on time. And it's just to have faith, work hard for what you want. We definitely didn't sit back on the couch and just sit there and say, "Okay, God, you just let me know when you're ready." There was a lot of work, and there was a lot of, we hit a lot of walls, Just awesome seeing how God's hand shows up at the last minute. And the support that we got with the film, from not just the community getting involved, probation and parole, they came out and they brought some guys that were on probation to work on the film. My focus is God, how can I keep them from committing the crime in the first place? So that was another aspect of Bragg N East, was he was able to create that working environment where they can come and actually work with us. The Wake County Sheriff's Department came and brought their whole SWAT team and got their huge armored vehicle out there. And
I would have had a blast.
That was awesome. They threw a nice big flashbang in the house. It went off. Of course, it brought all the residents up. "What's going on?" Capitol Special Police. They gave us all the uniforms, duty belts, keys to all their cars, new Chargers, and one of their Chevys, and we were able to light a house on fire. And had
I saw that picture.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was amazing.
So that was actually a group effort between our production company, I think 2 others, and then the fire departments and EMS that came out and helped out. Wake County EMS, they came out for a big crime scene we did. Production value, I'll tell you what, is more than the money that the budget I even had.
Yeah, no kidding. Your production Bragg N East is amazing. I've seen a list of other things that you worked on before. What was one of maybe the first production or film productions that you ever worked on? Maybe not produced, but worked on.
Me and my brother and my wife, we got together. We shot a bunch of short films, nothing major. But first thing I did was I would say behind the scenes was a movie called Southern Belle with Anna Faris. I worked in the office, so I got to just check people in and say, hey, how you doing? While they were there, one of the producers are looking for a song for Anna Faris to sing in his church scene. Well, I was a worship leader, so I'd written a lot of music. So I was like, hey, I got a crummy CD that I recorded. If you're welcome to listen to it. And they actually found one of the songs that they liked, and she actually sings the song I wrote in the church scene.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I got this crummy CD. Here, listen.
Yeah.
I love it though.
Yeah. So she butchers the song. She's supposed to, but it was good. It was good.
Here, butcher my song for me.
I think one of my biggest accomplishments was a film I worked down near Charlotte. I came in as another office assistant. That was with the guy Granger Hines, who was with CSI Miami. He was the director for the film. You had Ralph Singleton, who did, you name it. He's actually going to help us with our...
He did Pet Sematary and...
Graveyard Shift, Joanna Man, Another 40 Hours with Eddie Murphy, Harlem Nights, Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah!
Started doing some stuff, started saving them money, and then they asked me if I would take the role of assistant to executive producer. So I said, yeah, sure, I can be their assistant. By the end of the whole thing, I now hold an associate producer credit on that film. Yes. So I would say that was probably the coolest one, coming in with, hey, I think we could use someone around the office, to now hold an associate producer.
No kidding, that's awesome.
Yeah. Working hard, really does pay off.
What's maybe the greatest lesson that you've learned in your life?
Your wife is always right.
He's getting brownie points.
I'll tell you what, I think Bragg N East has taught me some of the greatest lessons. And that is, what true faith in God is. I thank God for some of the things that were said bad against me. Every time I was up against an attack, this person was saying something or that person was saying something, what it allowed me to do was to separate myself from the situation. So let me pull myself out of the situation. Let me look at it as a whole and make sure that I'm acting and everything is in accordance to what God would want. And if it's exactly what God would want, let's jump back in and keep going. Everything that we established was not about me, myself, and I. Yeah. It was more about others and the neighborhood and God and what His plan is. So in those times, I think it brought me and my wife closer together. It brought my relationship with God closer. And it also allowed me to know that what I was doing was exactly what He had called me to do. It wasn't easy though. And there was times I was on the floor with my wife just crying and praying and like, God, do I give up now?
What people call faith exercises.
Yeah, and now my faith's even stronger, so people better watch out.
Yeah, I like that. Well, okay, so for people who want to support Bragg N East, is there something they can go to?
To donate or help us out with the production, to get us moving forward with the feature, you can go to braggeneast.com. That's B-R-A-G-G, the letter N as in Nora, East, E-A-S-T.com. And there's a link there that you can click on to donate through PayPal.
Thank you for watching Life is Fine. Love you guys.
It's B-R-A-G-G, the letter N, East, E-A-S-T.com. And, and Cholo is scratching himself.
Cholo is very happy right now.
Yes.
We'll just have to get you to say that one more
That almost sounds like, if that was true, like change or gold coins just dropping.
You can just donate. Ching, 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 ching.
Exactly.
I love you, Cholo. Thank you.
Did you want to lead in with your question?
You can just go ahead.
If you know it's what God's called you to do, you just do it. There's no other answer.